So our pilot project is called Artistic Research in Cognitive Film Studies. And the idea was to, well, originally, I'm a cinematographer, I'm a filmmaker. So when I started doing my PhD, I was really struggling with the whole research world because I had never done any serious research as a practicing filmmaker. But at some point I noticed that the voice of practicing filmmakers is missing in cognitive film studies. So there is a lot of studies where neuroscientists research human brain and its interaction with film. But the more I read these articles, the more I started noticing that filmmakers are not present. Filmmakers' voice is missing from those studies. So this kind of became my own motivation to seek for like-minded researchers. And in FilmEU RIT, there was a matchmaking event. I turned out, I was very happy, that in Lusofona and in Lucca, there were also researchers, some of them filmmakers, some of them cognitive or film theorists, who were like-minded and thought that it would be interesting to further this neuroscientific study into the field of filmmaking and to see it not only from the side of the neuroscientists, but also from the side of filmmakers. So what our pilot does is, in a way, we want to build bridges between neurocinematic studies and filmmakers. We want to educate filmmakers about the research into brain, and we want to educate the neuroscientists into how films are made. And along all of this, we want to bring in something which is very important. It's called the tacit knowledge, and it's something that practicing filmmakers all have. And it's very often that practicing filmmakers, they kind of tend to call it intuition. And it feels like you do things based on your gut feeling. But it's really a kind of knowledge that is not so easily accessible, but it is a knowledge. So our experiments, along other things, also want to show that it's possible to make this implicit and hidden knowledge explicit and share it with students and with other researchers.
From what I know, that it is a pilot that you are leading in Baltic Film and Media School, but you were also mentioning Lucca. So how important has this international collaboration has been for you?
I would say this international collaboration has been absolutely essential. So I think none of the research, most of the research that we have done during the last year would have not happened without finding like-minded people. So I have been curious about it for a long time, and actually my collaborator now in pilot, Martin, I used to read a lot of his articles. So it was a revelation to see that actually within FilmEU consortium there are researchers who I have followed and kind of felt that I would like to reach out, but there had been not really a reason. And what this consortium does, it gives a reason to reach out. And I think without this, probably nothing would have happened.
Then would you say that FilmEU facilitated it a bit? Can you elaborate a little bit on that and like the role?
Absolutely. I think one of the things which is very interesting about the FilmEU RIT concept, which I now understand more and more, is this idea of this bottom-up research, not top-down. Not that we have some kind of research project and we have to fill it in, but that people who have curiosities about something, they find each other, and out of this something starts growing, and it can grow bigger and bigger. And I think this idea is very valuable, especially because in film schools not much research tradition actually exists. So it really wouldn't make sense to impose some kind of research on the film schools and then start hiring researchers. Our curiosity comes from our practice. And also research questions, they come from practice. They don't come from some other research groups. So I feel that this bottom-up approach that started with RIT, with the matchmaking event, and then with the pilot's call, is something which is very valuable and should continue growing.
From what I understand from what you're saying, it has a lot to do with experimentation. I'm not so sure if it has also to do, because you speak about filmmaking, but what about artistic research? What are your opinions about that? Does that come into play also in your pilots?
Yeah, I think artistic research is a very interesting field, and there are very many ways to go about artistic research. What I find personally the most interesting in this large field of artistic research is something which is called practice-based research. So it kind of shows that out of practice, research questions grow. Within our pilot, it's kind of there is a reciprocity in it. We do films, maybe research questions grow out of these films, and it goes back and forth. But I also feel that, for example, recently I ran a very small pilot study. It was eye tracking study. And in a way, it is also artistic research. Eye tracking usually would be considered the cognitive study, but because part of the study was me being a cinematographer and observing the results and interpreting the results, I feel that it still strongly sits in the artistic research field. And because I think the pilots in FilmEU they're very versatile, and they explore different avenues of how to do artistic research. I feel that our pilot maybe the focus of our pilot is how to do a collaborative and interdisciplinary artistic research. So we do very different things, and we have different research interests. For example, we have a group which is more interested in sound, and we have a group which is more inclined towards cinematography. My PhD supervisor, Pia Dika, she's about narrative sense making. So we have different curiosities, but what we do, we bring together each other's knowledge, and we give feedback to each other's work and research. So this is one sample of doing a collaborative and transdisciplinary artistic research. But there are some pilots which are very specific and which have very practical artistic outputs also. So in our case, maybe the outputs which are closest to an artistic output is a form of video essays. So we have created a number of video essays where these concepts that we explore in our journals and in articles and in conferences, we put them into video essay form, so it becomes more direct. And to be honest, I have to say the ideas are much more understandable in a video essay form. When you have to translate something which is physical, mental, embodied, connected to sound and image, when you translate it into words, it loses a lot. So, for example, my colleague Martin wrote a lot of articles about a fantastic idea, but when I saw his video essay, I was like, oh, now I understand. So I feel in our pilot, the most value that artistic research form brings in is the ability to viscerally show the results, not to just have them in a journal printed into words.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.